Thanks so much for Intense Tense for sharing these images of Mookie making, to my knowledge, the first public appearance since the Chapter 11 filings at the Cineworld Regal Investor Conference.
More on it on the Discord, not a lot of information from that, but off the back of him making a public appearance, I wanted to talk about what I think the absolute biggest mistake I think Cineworld has made or is currently making at the moment in regards to its current situation, Chapter 11 filings, all the problems that it's been having over the last 3 years. What is what I believe the biggest mistake? So I've written down some of the mistakes that we could blame their current situation on. The first is releasing a £500 million dividend right before the pandemic. That could have saved them a lot of financial debt that they needed to borrow during the middle of the pandemic. It could have saved them borrowing $200 million in the middle of the pandemic and massive interest payments. Then also buying Regal with so much debt, having to buy Regal with so much debt, or dropping the Cineplex lawsuit right in the middle of the pandemic, breaking their contract, and then leaving them with a massive lawsuit awarded by the Canadian judge. Now, but I don't see these technically as Cineworld's biggest mistake. What I see as Cineworld's biggest mistake is what they're doing right now to shareholders. And so if you don't know, Cineworld shareholders are likely to go zero, absolutely zero. In the coming months, Cineworld will be delisted. You will probably still own your shares, but you won't be able to publicly trade them, and a new company will be started, which the earnings from the Cineworld cinemas around the world will go to the new company, so your shares will be worthless. But the mistake here, I think, not giving existing shareholders, and maybe this is their plan to start small and then sort of through negotiation give a little bit more, but I think it would be a massive mistake not to give shareholders a little bit because of what we've seen in the past, which is where, say, disgruntled Regal shareholders has caused Cineworld tons of issues down the line because they didn't give them enough, and which, I mean, it's absurd to really, like, it is a bit of a ridiculous thing. But one of the things I think but the reason I'm saying that this would be a mistake is not, I want to make this clear, I don't think that we are currently pursuing legal action on the Discord. There's a few people writing letters and talking to lawyers, and I'm really impressed with how much work these guys have done so far. But all in all, I'm not expecting that to pay off, but I'm really impressed with the work that's been done, and a lot can come out of just giving it a try. Like a lot of things in life, you can achieve a lot by just giving it a try, and you never know that these things can actually work sometimes. If you try enough things, eventually some things just do happen to work. But I'm not talking about from a legal point of view. I'm talking about a lot of Cineworld shareholders are people that love cinema, and they are a niche of people who love cinema and love investing. And so while I do think a lot of the people that have invested in Cineworld are purely value investors potentially, just looking at the financials and seeing, oh, that's a good purchase, and have no affiliation or romance towards cinema, there's an enormous amount of retail investors. Cineworld has one of the largest retail investors owned companies in the world, public companies in the world, and well, actually, don't quote me on that. I did see that it's about 30% owned by retail investors, and a little bit of that might be because the share price is so low and so many big players don't want to take part in it. But the fact is that they will be in a time where retail investors are growing. The amount of is potentially in the future, companies will be 50% owned by retail investors, and the idea that you're going to start a new Cineworld company. A new cinema company. Now, some people will want to buy it based on financials alone, and they won't care about the past, but most people, the reason they care about financials is because they care about what the business did in the past, and that doesn't limit to financials. And they're going to look at what they did to the shareholders in the past, and they're going to go, do I want to be a part of that company? And you are specifically trying to screw over, not trying to, but you are, through inaction, screwing over people, retail investors, large amount of retail investors, that, like cinema and like investing and financials and fundamentals, I think this is a massive mistake, a lot of unrealized gains going into the future, and especially like being competitive is about having as many advantages as possible. And AMC has managed to leverage shareholders to do extraordinary things. They're an awful company, but in my opinion, they're not a great company to be buying because they also like to screw over their shareholders. But it just goes to show that, I mean, there's no better company than Tesla for showing how by rewarding retail investors can be extremely beneficial financially. It's better to have a million pockets with £1,000 in than one pocket with £1,000,000 in. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Is I think the biggest mistake Cineworld is currently making is not giving shareholders any equity, and I'm talking like 5% equity in the new co. So just like a small amount, a token amount, a gestural amount, to say that we appreciate you investing in the past and want you there in the future. It would just be, it's a PR thing. It would make a lot of sense financially for them. And so I don't really understand why they wouldn't do it on a PR basis thing. I think also the legal ramifications could exist. Like, there is a strong legal argument. If Mookie, the current CEO, gets awarded shares in the new company, there's a strong argument that he wasn't representing shareholders' interests. So he could be personally sued as well. And what's that going to do when your CEO is being personally sued while he's trying to start an entirely new company with new debt and a new financial structure? And also, Cineplex aren't just going to go away. They are going to try and do something as well, and Regal shareholders haven't gotten their full 200 million. So I think a lot of disgruntled shareholders and people will exist while you're trying to start a new business. You're just trying to cinema will be coming back. All your competitors will just be thinking about getting people into the cinema, while Cineworld will be battling lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. So I think the other things that had happened in the past, I think you couldn't have fixed those without hindsight. $500 million pound dividend, there was no sign that the pandemic was going to happen at that point. The Regal thing, buying with too much debt, when they bought them in 2019, it looked like the best decision ever. They were making so much money, literally £1 million in free cash flow, like 500 million dividend, 500 million free cash flow. And then dropping the Cineplex contract, they had to do that. They were running out of money prior to the pandemic. So yeah, I'm letting this video go on too long, but yeah, I think the biggest mistake Cineworld could be making is icing out shareholders. But I am biased, I hold shares. However, I do think this stock is going to zero, and I do think they will be making that big mistake. So let's see what happens in the coming weeks.